where the struggle is real to be awesome. The wait is over.
Let's get this thing started.
Go! Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 113 of the In or Out Sports Debate. I'm your host, Drew Willingham, and we are back again for episode 113. And I try to bring you guys new and fresh panelists every single week, or at least returning ones that bring the fire, ready to rock and roll. And we're going to start it off with the returning panelist, who is a one-time Vault of Fame inductee. He rocks and rolls some great content with Belly Up Sports, with his writing, things he does out here in the field, but also with the co-hosting of his podcast that he does, No Credentials Required, as well as the collaborations he does with myself and other brothers out here in these streams. Give it up for the returning panelist, Ryan McCarthy. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Thank you so much. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day and happy Rick DiPietro Day to all who observe. Also, happy Canada Day to our friends up north in these streams. And I see the Fireflies have joined us tonight there, Drew. Thanks for inviting them over.
They had to. We didn't have any wrestling topics, so I made sure I had to incorporate them one way. Somehow, some way, they're going to be here as Monday Night Raw is tonight. You know something's going on with Uncle Howdy. I'll check out the highlights later, but for tonight, we're going to stick within the sports for the sporting debating itself. But we now have to bring in your co-host, someone who has not been on this show before, but is your co-host on No Credentials Required, which you guys can check out right now, the No Ticket Required show that you guys have been killing it on, talking about movie reviews and stuff like that. But definitely great sports content. And this guy right here helps you out with that week in and week out, sometimes twice a week. Give it up for Dustin Henry. Welcome back, brother. Well, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like an action figure emerging from the package, freshly unwrapped. I'm ready to go.
You are the New Year's baby of the episode, ready to rock and roll and get it started tonight, man. And like we said, this is episode 113. There's been 112 episodes before. Last week was the 4-year anniversary edition that we had with Rob Johnson. He and I started this unit out together. And then around episode 12, which ironically 112 was on the 4-year anniversary, things switched up and started doing the weekly panelists. And now you're part of it, being the 41st person to be here. And Ryan, a part of that first 40 group. So thank you guys for making the time to be here tonight. And before we get started with this great, illustrious group that we have here for episode 113 in the arena of Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome, Ryan McCarthy and Dustin Henry are here with myself. The hair is gone, but I remain tonight for episode 113. And to pay homage to the hair and to the people that were here before, we have to go back and look at the Vault of Fame.
Acknowledge me.
Man, you took me back. This is why this show was so important, and this is why I am personally validating and vouching for this show. If you are anybody in media, sports, professional wrestling, anything, you need to be on In or Out Sports Debate with my man Drew Willingham, because this has got to be one of the most fun things I've ever done in a long time.
That right there is the In or Out Sports Debate Vault of Fame, which you can find on Sartoba Media's audio platforms listed right here with Amazon Prime, Spotify, Google Podcast, iTunes, and more, as well as on Sartoba.com, Facebook's platform at Sertoba Media, Instagram at Sertoba_media, X, formerly Twitter, at Sertoba_media, and on YouTube, which you may be watching right now or in replay, at Sertoba Media, all one word. But we are here for episode 113 of the In or Out Sports Debate. We got 5 great topics tonight, gentlemen, and a team that Ryan knows very well, especially from a time when he was around the age of using Huggies, talking about picking this team because he was a fan of Kermit the Frog. Kermit lives on, and he lives on in this round right here. And we're going to take it to that with round 1.
Round 1.
Here with round 1, the New York Jets will fail to win the Super Bowl this season as a result of the ongoing drama surrounding the team. Ryan, we're going to start this one with you for your love with Kermit and the Jets right here. What do you think? Are you in or are you out on this topic?
I hate this topic, but I'm out. I hate this so much. We talked about this last week on actually 2 weeks ago, on Total Football Talk. Ding. We had briefly touched on this about the drama surrounding the New York Jets. And look, most of this drama, it's media driven. It's media manufactured. All right. It's for clicks and views. It's for the hot takes on the 4-letter network and other networks as well. Look, Aaron Rodgers has missed minicamp before. He missed it in 2011, 2014, 2020, 2021. Guess what he did all 4 of those seasons? He won league MVP. So does it really matter that he's in minicamp? I understand with the injury. Yeah, you need to learn the offense, but he already knows the offense. And his teammates have already had gone on record and saying, yeah, we're okay that he's missing minicamp. Whatever excuse he has for missing it is fine with us. We're okay with it. Tyrod Taylor can start to learn the offense a little bit. So, and the fact of the matter is the Jets didn't have minicamp last year because they were in the Hall of Fame game. So they just said, you know what? We're going to skip it altogether. Now, the drama won't be the reason why the Jets will miss the Super Bowl this year. It'll be injuries. Again, the offensive line was a revolving door last year. 13 out of the 17 games, they had a different offensive line. They have offensive line in the lineup, different combinations in the lineup. So, no, it won't be injuries. It won't be drama. It won't be drama surrounding the quarterback. It won't be drama surrounding Hassan Reddick, who's cosplaying in Japan recently. It'll be injuries, especially on the offensive line. They need to stay healthy this year, and they'll be all right.
Okay, very well said. Dustin, when it comes to this right here, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with this? Are you going to be out? Are you going to go against him? Or are you going to say in?
Well, it is the In or Out Sports Debate, and I hate to say it, Ryan, but I am in on this one. And the reason you pointed out, do I really think that the reason the Jets will miss the Super Bowl is solely based on the drama? No, but I do think that this is the most important offseason that Aaron Rodgers is coming off of because, as you pointed out, he has missed mini camps before, but he hasn't missed them coming off an injury. He's 40 years old, and I am 41. He's younger than me, but when you hit that 40 mark, your body starts to behave a little differently. And if I was Mr. Aaron Rodgers, I would want to take every bit of time to get to gel with my teammates. Yes, he's very experienced. He obviously knows the game, but he is getting older. We haven't seen him on the football field in a while. And if I were him, I would think he has to focus a little bit more on football, and some of the outside stuff will affect the Jets along with the injuries. And lastly, you kept Nathaniel Hackett, who admitted last year that it took him a while to figure out how to effectively use Breece Hall. So, the defense's window is closing, and you have an offensive coordinator who said he couldn't effectively use what was your best player by far last season, but the drama will not help. I am in on this.
Man, both of you came out here swinging this first round. This is what I'm talking about. I love this show.
Breaking
This is what I'm
news:
talking
Dustin
about.
is no longer a part of No Credentials Required.
No, don't you be a Tom Petty on my
You're
show
lying.
there,
You're
Ryan
lying.
McCarthy. Okay, no Tom Petty action tonight. But what I will say is both of you came out here swinging and knocked them both out the park on both sides. That's what's tough for me to navigate through here and kind of be a tipping of the scale. But I'd already had my mind up beforehand, and I'm going to stick with this pick. And for that, I got to agree with one of you here, and I'm going to agree with Dustin. I'm in. When you look at Captain Ayahuasca and what he has done between the offseason last year and the offseason this year, we're going to leave him alone for the injury because he did battle back and he was hanging in tough. And if the team would have been respectable enough towards the end of the year, I still truly believe he would have made an attempt to come back and actually play in those last couple games and actually forego it in the playoffs. It's probably good for his career in his future that he didn't, because who knows what could have happened in that moment had he come back maybe a little too soon and got hit. But besides all that, you've got Tay Hayes, talked about last week. Breaking news during the show, Ryan McCarthy helped me and Cole out by saying that he was released. Okay, you got the impact with what's going on with the law. You got the fact that Nathaniel Hackett is basically just riding the coattails of Aaron Rodgers, and if he's not there, he looks like he's lost, like a kid in a store that lost his parents, and he's trying to figure out how to get back because he's proven without Aaron Rodgers, he's not effective as a coach. And with him, it's still unproven if they can go to the promised land and do anything with the team and actually get there to the Super Bowl. Ryan makes some really great points. But the biggest thing that surrounded the Jets for quite some time, even before this whole Aaron Rodgers debacle, has been the drama that surrounded the team. And as the drama gets more and more and more in depth, it impacts the team even more. Look at the butt fumble. Look at how things were when they went to consecutive AFC championships. I mean, let's go back to even that far, okay? Then how relevant were the Jets before that? When Vinny Testaverde was like 52 years old and was the quarterback for a little bit after riding, the second and third string for many, many years. Come on, the Chad Pennington. Yeah, I get your flashes in the pan there, and with Bill Parcells. But before that, since that, I guarantee a Super Bowl and Super Bowl III, they really haven't been that relevant because each and every season, there is some part of drama that circles this team as a cloud and weighs in on them. And you brought the biggest one who is surrounded by drama, and that being Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't like to be around drama, but he finds his way around it each and every offseason as of late, and especially after he's been in the media giving his take once a week during the NFL season. So he gets even criticized more for that. So now the moves that he's making outside of it, whether he's going to another country on a retreat or he's just going on a regular vacation, when you're doing it during mandatory camp times, it just looks bad and sets a bad precedent. And that right there was a looming cloud of drama, whether the media speculated a little bit too much or not. You still have what your coach said that didn't even make it that much better by saying it was an inexcused absence in the way that he said it. So you're creating the drama in that moment. So you're feeding into it. So because they feed into it and because they make it worse, I'm going to say that's what holds them back from getting to a Super Bowl now, or even while Aaron Rodgers is affiliated with the team as an active player.
I feel Cole Johnson nodding and agreeing with you both from all the way up here in New York. All right. Because I know he hates. Well, I mean, let's say hates Aaron Rodgers. He's a good Christian man like myself, but he's not the biggest fan of Aaron Rodgers. Let's put it that way. And plus, the Tay Hayes news, less than 24 hours later, he's told to kick rocks by Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. So, unlike past regimes where a player gets busted for drugs or for marijuana or pop for something else, he stays with the team, Robert Saleh said, "You know what? We don't need this mess. You got to go."
Yeah, I'll give him that. But I still think Aaron is not helping his own situation. This was the offseason where he had to show up and he had to be there for his team. And there's been a bunch of other stuff surrounding him. And I heard rumors of people were talking that he could be like a VP candidate depending on who the ticket is. There's all this stuff surrounding Aaron Rodgers. There always is. Like Drew said, he claims to hate drama, but he causes it. He causes it like Favre did. He learned.
What quarterback doesn't generate drama? Okay, look at Patrick Mahomes and all the stuff that he's going on with his wife and his brother. Remember his brother?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We don't hear. Who we casually don't hear from anymore. By the way.
Yes, I'm very glad about that.
He's had a muzzle put on him at some point, but I mean, even that was a flash in the pan. It still hasn't stopped the Chiefs from winning 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years.
This is true. But now you got new drama with was it Travis and Tay? So
they still won a Super Bowl during that, though. Even though it not Super Bowl, I would 100% agree with you, because then we could say that the drama and stuff surrounding that caused them to lose that. Well, I wouldn't say caused, but affected them to the point to where they weren't on their A game. But they didn't, because you got the biggest pop star that's following the team, who's an Eagles fan, by the way, and you still win the Super Bowl. So. But
not anymore.
Well, still probably closetly an Eagles fan.
True.
Just probably. Not against, just when they play the Chiefs, of course, you're going to side with their man. But neither here nor there when it comes to this topic right here. Aaron Charles Rodgers, as my man Kyle Nash likes to call him, by his full name, full birth name and everything, government name and all. He has to get it together. If he doesn't, I mean, and he's 40 years old. He's pretty much, no offense to you guys who have hit that mark, but when you get to 40s, even flaws or positives are pretty much, we're setting our ways. Okay. And I'm not far behind you, because I'll be 38 in January. So I'm not far behind you guys when it comes to that. But all that being said, ACR, he just might be at the point of no return with all these ayahuasca trips and everything. And it might be taking its toll to the point to where it's definitely going to affect this team in a more negative way than a positive. But let's get to the comments real quick before we go to round 2. Mickey Delaney's in the house saying, let's go. We appreciate you being here, Mick.
Comment Cop is here.
Yes, Comment Cop is alive and well. And Sick Diggy says, I've got my snacks ready for this throwdown. Sick, I was talking to him in text earlier and said, this is going to be a barn burner, he said. That was quote unquote what Sick Diggy said. He also says, the only choice for Ryan McCarthy is on this one is out. He'd be a fool to be there in on this nonsense.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, he was right.
Kurt the Frog is out too, by the way.
Kermit, so you got another one in your favor. And also Mickey says he's out. You got 2 people agreeing with you. Well, it's 2 versus 3 right now. We're still rocking and rolling on the inside. Dante says, what's up, guys? Appreciate you being here there, Dante. Dante's been a loyal supporter of Sartoba Media, so shout out to him. Sick Diggy says he's out too. I mean, come on, guys. It's a breakout here. Sick says, I'm out. I'm staying out of this fiasco within the New York Jets organization. So you're out for different reasons. Okay. So you just don't want to meddle with it. I get it. And guys, whether you're watching on No Credentials Required channel right now or on Sartoba platforms, make sure you subscribe now and never miss out on new content. This is the first time you're viewing it on these channels. And with that being said, before we go to round 2, we do have some breaking news that we have to get to as a result of what's going on for next week. That breaking news is this. Speaking of Kyle Nash, he returns with Sean Mears for episode 114. Sean Mears will be the 42nd different guest that we have on this show. And it all starts at 9:05 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you guys tune in for that as we get to episode 114 at that point. But for right now, we are in episode 113 with many, many, many more topics brought to you by
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Let's take this unit into round 2.
Round 2.
And here with round 2, let's take some Major League Baseball now. And as we get close to that point of the year, Vladimir Guerrero will be traded to the New York Yankees prior to the MLB trade deadline, with that looming towards the end of the month. All that being said, what do you guys think about this? We'll start this off with Dustin here. Let you go first. What do you think? Are you in or are you out on Vlad going to the Yankees?
I am out. So the first thing I'll say is the GM of the Blue Jays came out and he said it makes no sense to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Make those trades, because I think he was talking about Bo Bichette as well. But that could and probably is some sort of a smokescreen. But I don't think they're gonna. This is old school. I don't think they're gonna trade him to an interdivisional rival, and they'll have to play him a bunch of times. And also, he had said that even if he was dead, quote unquote, that was one of the old quotes, he would not play for the Yankees. And when he was asked about that, he has since softened his stance. But when he was originally asked about that, he said it was for personal reasons having to do with family. And I go back to another example. Ken Griffey Jr. said that he would never play for the Yankees because of the way they treated his dad. And he did not play for the Yankees. Also, so you're going to acquire Vlad Guerrero Jr., and he might not want to stay there. How much would they give up for what would be a rental? Because they have to extend him. You would think they would want to extend him if they did acquire him. And they have the Juan Soto extension to worry about, at least I hope. And Hal Steinbrenner, under his stewardship, the team has not been as aggressive about obliterating the luxury tax as they were when his father was running things. So for those reasons, I'm out.
Well said with that. And Ryan, what do you think? Are you going to side with him on this one, or are you going to go out and think that he doesn't have any shot of going to the Yankees before the deadline?
Last Tuesday when I sent him that a link from the Four Letter Network saying, "Hey, Vlad Guerrero has softened his stance to the New York Yankees," I thought about it some more, and I said to myself, you know what? I got my myriad of reasons for him coming to the team, but also there's reasons why he probably won't. For that reason, I'm out. And I have 3 words as to why he will not be a New York Yankee: Jennifer, Steinbrenner, Swindell. You may ask yourself, who's Jennifer Steinbrenner Swindell? Well, Jennifer is the oldest daughter of the now deceased George Steinbrenner, who, after he passed away, said, "We're going to keep the facial hair and we're going to keep the facial cleanliness policy," which means no beards. Which is interesting because I'm a Yankee fan and I have a beard. The hair can't be long, can't be dreadlocked, can't have a crazy wild style. You got to keep things corporate. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., for the pop he has off his bat, for the fact that he's young. I mean, the dude's only 25 years old. 25 years old, which is 10, 11 years younger than the currently injured Anthony Rizzo, who has struggled mightily. You have that, and plus he goes to arbitration after this year. So you got the facial hair policy. Great. He's got the pop in his bat. It'd be awesome to have it on his team, on the Yankees. But I'll give you one example of a guy who had to cut his dreads and clean up when he got traded to the Yankees. That was Andrew McCutchen. And just like Samson, when he got his hair cut by Delilah, Andrew McCutchen wasn't the same after that. So as much as I want Vlad Guerrero on my team, decent defensive first baseman, popping his bat, I don't think the risk is worth the reward. So for that reason, I'm out.
I really want to say those 4 words. Actually, it's 5. But I really want to say it right now, but I just can't. I really can't when it comes to this topic. I'm going to agree. We're going to all be out. I really wanted to, but there were several points that the fellows made during this topic that, one, you got to cut your hair and your beard. And, he's made comments, which, again, Dustin, explained that he has walked back on. I'm guessing if the right amount of money was there, you'd consider it. But when you bring up the McCutchen point and you think about, the fact that once he cut him, It wasn't the same after that. You know, you kind of lose your stigma, your aura. Like you're not the same as, you know, you don't have the juice, you don't have the flow because you're not feeling it because it was a part of what made you who you were. Okay. You know, and Ike put a comment in the chat that just popped up that I'm going to bring up here in a second, but I can see something like that happening, which is possible, but, and, you know, because they don't have that type of, you know, rule in place where you got to be clean cut and all that stuff like you do with the Yankees. But when you think about everything as a whole, you want to go somewhere that you're comfortable with. And, you know, again, the Blue Jays have no real point to trade both him and Bichette right now because the amount of compensation you're going to get isn't going to be as much as if you did it during the offseason because teams are desperate right now, but they're not that desperate, you know, because they already know, like Dustin said, you're going to be pretty much getting him for a rental if you make that big trade now because there's no guarantee unless you do a sign-in trade that you're going to be getting him from beyond this season. So is he going to be going back to Toronto if he finishes this year out? I don't think so. I think he does go to a new team, but if you have the option between all teams in major leagues, I don't think you're going to sign with the Yankees unless they're throwing you a stupid amount of money. But then you have to consider what makes you who you are. And is an extra few $1 million a year worth cutting your personality down to where it can affect you? Some of us can cut our hair out here and be the exact same. I know I look different than the guy over there, okay? But the person is still here. I haven't lost the way I can do this right here or anything outside of this because I cut the hair. But baseball, where things are really meticulous, and I've been a part of that game for a very long time, especially when you're an active player, you know, people have superstitions. This is the word I was looking for. Superstitions out there. And with him growing his hair out as long as he has, some people, if they're active players and they're on a roll, especially in productive ways, they're going to look at that superstition and want to keep it. Some other ones in the past have had like some wearing the same socks deal, the same pants, which is pretty nasty. Got to watch those units. But at least here, you can still maintain your hair, let it grow, be yourself, and keep the flow going. I agree with you guys here. I'm out. I don't think he goes to the Yankees.
Yeah, like I said, I looked at Spot Track while we were talking, and he's going to be under arbitration next year. He's not an unrestricted free agent until 2025. So if he comes to the Yankees, he's there for one more year. But like Dustin accurately mentioned, Yankees also got to think about Juan Soto. Juan Soto has said, "Yeah, let's get this. I want to be here in New York." He's got the cleats to prove it. He says, "I love I love New York cleats." He wants to be there. Yankees fans want him to be there. So it's a very tough decision for Brian Cashman coming down the road because, hey, it's July 1st now. Happy Baba Bonilla Day, everybody. So the Cashman's got to make that decision. And this is the team that has not won a World Series since 2009. It's the longest drought in my lifetime, since like a little bit after I was born. So, yeah, I think it's a high risk, high reward, and you gotta wonder what kind of player he'll be. Not so much on the field, but attitude wise, if he gets traded to the Yankees and has to lose his sweet style.
Yeah, I wouldn't want, and it's easy. If somebody threw enough money at me, I'll shave my head. If somebody says, okay, I'm going to give you X amount of money. I mean, you pull it off. I'm a wild card. I have no idea how I would look without it. It could be bad.
You did St. Baldrick's one year. You looked pretty good.
I had forgotten about that. So I did do that the one year, but I just think too, it's too personal. You can walk back comments and money does talk, but when you say you wouldn't even go there if you were dead, and you say that you keep it anonymous, but you say it's for familial reasons, I mean, that's pretty personal. I just can't see him ever putting that aside. And also, I had learned that Ken Griffey Jr. is apparently still receiving money from the Reds. So there's a couple different Bobby Bonillas out there.
Not to the extent of Bobby Bonilla for the amount of years, but for the fact that they're still getting paid, and those type of contracts. I mean, the deferred payments you're starting to see it in the NFL too. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes who signed that $500 million deal, $500 million. But a good portion of that is deferred until, much time after he's retired, similar to Bobby Bonilla. And I think he'll be getting larger payments than $1 million a year. But Bobby Bonilla, he was the one who set the tone for all that. It's got to be pretty cool that he has his own holiday, for one, and that other players and other sports are following suit because of the groundwork he laid out. He laid the foundation out for this. We have a holiday, Bobby Bonilla Day. We're celebrating it today. Put your ones up. But guys, with that, our ones are up. Yours should be too. With that being said, we got to take this into our first commercial break. But before we do that, we do have some comments that we got to get to here because after Sick Dicky said what he said about the fiasco within the Jets organization, the comment cop was rock and roll and said, Sick,
There he is.
stay in your lane. You as well, Dante. Well, Dante is always in his lane. You don't need to tell Dante stay in his lane, Mick. You get in your lane. You're a little bit out of your lane right now. Don't make me click the rock button, the shut up one. He doesn't say a nice word at the end of it. You know it. I don't want to click it right now. Don't make me click it. Mickey also says, I am out. The New York sucks. The New York Yankees suck.
You hate us because you ain't ate us. You hate us because you ain't us. Mickey.
There you go. You
All
can't
right?
say that. You can't say that as fast as you did the first time, Ryan. It sounds like something
I
else.
was trying to. God bless you, Ron Simmons.
You know what, Mick? We're going to take this off the rails for a second.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Story is this. There once was a troll. His name was Mick. Sometimes he gets a little out of hand as the comment cop. Need him to calm down, please, because I'm a Braves fan. Don't like the Yankees. I'm not going to sit here and say they flat out suck. I'm going to leave that for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers of the CFL, okay? We're going to leave that alone for right now. We're not going to bring the New York Yankees into this.
You mean the Winnipeg IEDs keep blowing themselves up?
Oh! Ouch! When it comes to that, I got to give you this.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Oh!
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is. Get a little wrestling action up in here tonight, too. Even Ike's in the house says, what's up, fella? Ike?
How's it going?
You can hear there. Ike, I'll give you the shocker right there. He even says, Vlad is going to the Mets out of spite. This is the comment that I was talking about earlier. What do you guys think? Is this a possibility while we're still in round two before we go to the commercial break that this could be a possibility?
Only if he talks to Grimace. Grimace could lure him over there.
What do you think, Ryan? Do you think he's going to have to go to Grimace and potentially run into this situation?
Stop it. Get some help.
I mean, it could happen as long as it gets. Maybe he brings the hamburger along. I don't know. It just breaks him out of jail.
If all this happens, it will be a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
to me at least. Sick comes in and says, don't worry at Mickey Delaney. Our trip to a local Build-A-Bear is still on this weekend. Perhaps we can send a custom Fozzie Bear to at Ryan McCarthy to cheer him up.
Waka waka.
Sheesh. Little Kermit there.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
That's how I feel when it comes to this Build-A-Bear nonsense. I do not know what is going on out here. So when it comes to that,
Sick and Mick have a special relationship.
yeah, that's why they're dubbed the Sick and Mick clan. Like they're all about the icks. When it comes to Mickey, he says there's one New York Yankees picture that has hair on his lip. Okay. Oh, the pitcher. Yeah. Okay. It kind of got me for a second, but yes, one pitcher has hair on his lip, but it falls within code. So because of that, it's not like he has the Dennis Eckersley or the Raleigh fingers going on. So, and Mickey's again telling Ike to stay in his lane. Six says, "Do you mean dress code?" Yes, that's what I meant at the moment. I was trying to come up with that in that moment, and apparently Mick is telling me to keep my blood pressure down. I took my medicine earlier. Everything is okay out here in these streams. Don't worry, Dustin. We'll send you a Build-A-Bear, and Mickey Delaney will cover the shipping and handling. Wow,
I'm excited.
Yeah,
Make sure it's a Build-A-Bear Kurt Cobain.
Ooh, that could be a different one.
Yeah, that could be a rare. That could be as rare as that championship up there. One of a kind. There it is. Build-A-Bear Nirvana style. Vicky says, yes, money talks, but okay, yeah, we're not going to read that out here just because I'm trying to make sure we get this on the radio airwaves at some point. Don't worry, Mickey. The night nurse is keeping a close eye on things. Absolutely. You know how it is. And if you guys are watching for the first time on either one of these platforms, make sure you subscribe now and never miss out on new content. I will pass on the trip to the Build-A-Bears. I don't have any room on the shelf behind me. There it is. No room, no more room. Unless it's wrestling paraphernalia. Fortunately, she's not a 5'3" brunette named Debbie. He keeps going out here with this stuff because of the Little Debbie commercial.
Oh,
From back in the day, from season 1 of D. Willie in the Evening.
I thought he was thinking of like Build-A-Hoe of a 5'3" brunette named Debbie.
It could, and that would, I guess, have to be the local Captain Save-A-Ho. So that would be what would be happening out here. As Six then follows up with the last comment before we go to our first commercial break. How about Build-A-Bears of all 3 members of Nirvana at Dustin?
Only if you make the Chris Novoselic Build-A-Bear height accurate. I want a 6'7" Build-A-Bear at my house.
Holy crap. He's going to have a special bed and everything for it. Put that unit in his own bedroom.
Put him in the guest bedroom. Grab my receiver guests.
The Build-A-Bear takeover at Dustin's house. There it is. Well, guys, thank you guys in the comments for helping us keep this thing lit through the first 2 rounds. We're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we still have 3 great rounds in store. We'll see you here after that first commercial break.
Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered a winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text. Delete.
Oh, yeah.
Delete.
Join these 2 football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels.
Welcome back to episode 113 of the Inner Out Sports Debate. Dustin Henry and Ryan McCarthy join me tonight for the 113th edition. Fellas, coming back from that first commercial break, when it comes to Tyrone Alizé McDummy, what are your thoughts? I always like to ask everybody's question that after that first commercial break.
I am very familiar with what I coined on our show, Dollar Store Usher. So always makes me laugh every time. But and I remember saying, I think Ryan, I think we're stuck with Dollar Store Usher for the rest of the year. Dak's playing pretty well, and then what they do? They choked it up.
There it is. The Dollar Store Usher. You got it. I mean, that's just what I dubbed the fans of Cowboy Nation. Is you got Tyrone Alizé McDummies in all shapes and sizes out there doing the same thing, acting absolutely ridiculous and thinking they're going to the Super Bowl and getting another championship for the first time in 30 years every single year.
Are you still them boys? No, you ain't.
Yeah, absolutely this.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
Speaking of football, let's take this into a topic that we can actually enjoy talking about. That being what we've got in store for round 3.
Round 3.
Here with round 3, the addition of running back Ricky Person Jr. will elevate the running game this season for the Seattle Seahawks. Ryan, let's go back to you first on this one, see what your thoughts are, and then we'll get Dustin second. Are you in or are you out on this one?
I'm in. And I'm shocked, absolutely shocked that the Seahawks also didn't sign Tyrone McDummy. Look, I'm not the biggest UFL fan. When I saw that question come up in our rundown, as you know, Drew, I've banished the UFL to the Shadow Realm because my New Jersey Generals once again got canceled. And
Facts.
I'm still sore about it. So, but Ricky Pearson Jr., one of the I guess top rushers in the UFL this year, had a fantastic UFL championship game. And the reason why I say in is because in the NFL you can't have enough depth, especially at running back. Now you get the fortunate circumstance of joining Kenneth Walker III, as well as Zach Charbonnet, two solid running backs. Kenneth Walker had kind of an off year this past season, only 908 yards after 1,000 yards. After a 1,000-yard season in his rookie season. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does with Mike Macdonald as new head coach. You got a new regime, and I'm sure Dustin will touch upon it because he's a Seahawks fan. He's the authority on the matter. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does in Ryan Grubb's offense. And we saw what happened last year when Ryan Grubb was the offensive coordinator for the University of Washington. Thankfully for him, he didn't have to move down the street too far to Quest Field. And I'm kind of curious to see what he does. So I just want to kind of see what kind of scheme he's going to run with Geno Smith in the back as at quarterback, and how they're going to use a guy like Ricky Person Jr. in their lineup. So yeah, I'd be curious to see. That's why it's part of the reason why I say I'm in.
Okay, Dustin, do you agree with him on this? Given what you know about the Seahawks, are you in or are you going to be out on this one?
Well, I'm surprising myself, and I'm saying that I am out. Ryan, you bring up an excellent point that you can never have too much depth at the running back position, especially in the new NFL. And running backs are often injured. However, I'm going to say he would have had a better chance of seeing the field under the Pete Carroll regime. Pete Carroll prioritized the running back. We have yet to see what Ryan Grubb and Mike Macdonald will do with that new, what their scheme is going to be on offense. But I will say the reason that I'm out on him elevating the running game for the Seattle Seahawks, I looked up some stats for this one. And according to UFL.com, his yards per carry average for this past season was 3.2. And I looked up the NFL average of yards per carry in 2022 and 2023, respectively. 2023 was 4.1 and 2022 was 4.4. So he's already slightly below the yards per carry average that an NFL running back brings to the table. And he was doing that, no disrespect to the UFL. There's some talent there, but he was doing that against lesser talent, most would think, than what he would see in the NFL. And they also have, if Mike Macdonald wants to prioritize the run, they have Kenneth Walker III, who they want to be the starter. They've been very vocal about it. John Schneider, who's still with the team, by the way. Everybody likes to act that the team's going to be very different under Mike Macdonald, and they probably will be scheme-wise. But draft pick-wise, John Schneider was involved on every single draft pick of the Pete Carroll era. Even though Pete Carroll had final say over football decisions, apparently, John Schneider still had a hand in picking those players. Don't think he did not. So he was part of the regime that took Zach Charbonneau higher than most people thought that he could be. Most people thought he could have been drafted later, and the Seahawks drafted him pretty high. If memory serves, it was a second-round pick when people thought they could have waited a little bit more to get him. So they think highly of Zach Charbonnet. Those are the two that they want to command the Seahawks rushing attack. For those reasons, I'm out.
Very well said. And when it comes to that, Ryan brought up some great points, and you both did too. So it's very tough for me to split this one. But kind of like how I was in round one, I already had my mindset on this. And Dustin, you brought up some really great points, especially bringing up his stats within the UFL. I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. I'm out. When it comes to this right here, I mean, just like you said, averaged around 3 yards per carry, and he wasn't the only back that was productive on the Birmingham Stallions. The Stallions, very similar to how the Seahawks were when they were back in their Legion of Boom days, where they were rotating different running backs in and different key players, where there wasn't really a fixture on one particular player besides Marshawn Lynch, but even he had help in the running game too. When you think about all the different rotational players, even at quarterback, between Adrian Martinez and Matt Corral, there were two different quarterbacks playing all year long in the UFL for that team, as well as they had 3 to 4 different running backs that were rotated in throughout that 10-game season and in the 2 playoff games. Now, Ricky Person did lead the league in 6 rushing touchdowns, but he did that within a 10-game season. He did have, 3 yards per carry, which, if you get 3.2 yards per carry and you run the ball 3 times, it's almost a first down. Between what it's like 9.9 yards if it's around 3.3 yards. You know what I'm saying. But the point is, when you're thinking about that production, that's in the UFL. If you're only getting 3 yards in the UFL, that's like getting 1.5 yards or 2 yards in the NFL. I mean, there's a big difference. That's why they're comparing the UFL to the minor leagues. It does get you more exposure, and it gets you more reps to where you can get opportunities like this if you're Ricky Person Jr., or if you're special teams and kickers like Jake Bates, or if you're like safeties like Puka Nakua's brother Kai Nakua, who played for the Michigan Panthers. These are all different players that can get exposure in this different league to get the springboard opportunities in the summer like this, to where you got an opportunity during training camp, preseason, to be along part of that final cut, or actually make the roster and be part of the team for maybe something special. Or if it's a mediocre team, you're still part of getting extra reps at some point. The problem I have here with this, besides everything else I laid out with what Dustin said, is he's more likely going to be the 3rd or 4th back. He's not even going to be considered in 1 or 2. It's not like this is a huge splash to where, he's going to come in there and be the starting running back and make a huge, huge difference each and every game. No. Will he be used sparingly, and potentially if players get hurt and get an opportunity and maybe shine there and then elevate himself from that point? Maybe, but that's not what this question was all about. Will he elevate the running game this season, like making an initial impact to it? And no, I don't see him making an initial impact to it. Maybe getting an opportunity towards the end of the year, middle of the year, who knows? Even maybe as early as in the year. But again, if you're 3 yards per carry in the UFL, 3.2, 3.3, and you're going to the NFL and you expect to have that type of production or better and making that impact there, and you were already in the league before with the Baltimore Ravens, let's not forget about that, mainly on the practice squad, but he didn't get elevated that far up from that point. And you had opportunities there, regardless if your quarterback's trying to do the majority of the rushing or not. You still have opportunities there to elevate yourself, and you didn't. Because of all that, I got to agree with what Dustin said, and I have to say that I'm out on this one.
Spirited debate on that, but I wanted to be in so bad. I was trying to figure out a way to be in, but when I started looking into the stats, I said I can't sign on this one. Can't sign on the dotted line.
Now, I do have a question, Drew, because since you're more the UFL guy than the either of us, either Dustin or I, was he part of a tandem in Birmingham, or was he basically the feature back?
He was part of I would say the 1A and the 1B. But even if you're the 1A and the 1B of the Stallions in the UFL, you got to look at the fact that, going to the NFL, if you're a 1A and a 1B of the UFL, it's kind of like being the third, fourth, or fifth string in the NFL. And the third, fourth, or fifth string isn't guaranteed to even suit up. Maybe by your third string, but your fourth and your fifth string, it's not even guaranteed to suit up. Maybe practice squad. So when I put all that in perspective, I'm still kind of when I think about it. Him getting the opportunity because he was a 1A or a 1B with CJ Marable over there for the Stallions. It was those two that were the 1-2 punch for the team. But the fact that he's getting an opportunity is great. But a lot of it comes from the fact that the Stallions were 9-1, almost went undefeated, and won both games in the playoffs to win their third consecutive championship between the USFL and now merged UFL between the XFL for the first season. So, I mean, that team, regardless of if this guy was on the team or not, was going to win the championship this year. If you watched them between all three phases of their game, offense, defense, special teams, they were steamrolling teams, and their defense made more of an impact than their offense. Besides their quarterback play by Adrian Martinez, Matt Corral was kind of like the Matt Castle of the Patriots when Brady took over. That's kind of like what the situation reminded me of. He was just good enough to keep them in the hunt, except for the defense overshadowed it because they won 9 straight games to open the season. No, 8. Then they lost one and they won the last one. But they had, before that, I think it was either 15 or 16 games they'd won consecutively between last year going into this year. That just goes to show how dominant that team was. And Ricky Person Jr. wasn't even the highlight each and every game, if really the highlight ever. I think only having like maybe 2 or 3 at most 100-yard games all year long, and he only had 6 touchdowns. So what do you think about that? CJ Marable and the others that they had on their roster that could run the ball. That's why I said I think that he could be a 1A or 1B on a UFL team, but third, fourth, fifth string maybe for your team there, the Seahawks. I think you made a good choice with that one, Dustin.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question very, very well there, Ryan, because, UFL, you are to what to CFL is what I am to UFL, except for you have a lot more history that in the CFL that I need to catch up to as to where the UFL and the XFL and the USFL history is very small in this decade as to what we've seen for, 75, 80 years, the CFL? Is that how long?
Over more than that.
It's more than that? Okay. It's
Yeah,
not 100 yet.
They've played 114 up this year. They'll be the 114th Grey Cup, but the modern version of it, I believe, started in the 1950s. So at least 75 years for the modern era.
Okay.
Encyclopedia Britannica strikes again.
Sick Diggy's in the comments. He's like our Tony Reali of the show when he tunes in. Sick, look it up. Let us know here in the comments how old is the CFL. And speaking of the comments, before we go to round 4, let's get to them real quick. As Six says, Ryan McCarthy of Build-A-Hoe is a different store, and it's run by the Godfather. I've been there a few times. He knows his hoe.
I have a true story about the Godfather. So back in the day, we would go to go see Raw is War in all but what was known as the Pepsi Arena. Now it's known as the MVP Arena. I had a coworker who was rumored. I worked directly with her, but she was rumored to have also moonlighted as a gentleman's dancer at one of the local gentlemen's clubs. Mm. And then we're there on Monday night, and Godfather and WWE, the Godfather, they would go to different gentlemen's clubs to pick up these certain women for the hoe train. And we're looking at the
Oh,
Titantron, and we're going, is that who we think it is? It was her.
Oh man, you're gonna have to tell me which establishment off air, Ryan. You're gonna have to tell me that one.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I kind of want to be a fly on the wall for this one, even though I'm not from the area. It just sounds funny that this is Attitude Era, and the person that is on screen with the Godfather. You were literally part of Build a Hoe. That is awesome. That is that is great.
I jumped
But
on
Six says, do you want the David Grohl bear without the facial hair?
Yes, that is more period accurate to Dave Grohl in Nirvana. No facial hair, please.
Okay. No facial hair, he says. Go ahead and get that ready, and he'll drop the P.O. box in the comments at some point. Can't confirm or deny that's going to actually happen, but it's a good suggestion. Six says, still them boys, those fools never were to begin with.
Not since '96.
Yeah.
But if you ask a Cowboys fan, they're going to come at you like Charles Barkley.
That's terrible.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, Charles. You and the rest of the Cowboys fans out there just...
You can't handle the truth.
Tell them, Jack.
Facts.
There it is. Right here, we got Mickey saying, I want to see how the Seahawks will do without Pete. And Mickey's a Seahawks fan, too. So shout out to him, too, for being another Seahawks fan out here in the chat.
Isn't Pete still with the team as an advisor?
Does that count, though? Like Bruce Arians? Like with the Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, he is, but there was some drama about it. And Ryan, you remember, because I went on that I took notes on the Pete Carroll presser.
You did.
He did not want to go. It was very obvious he was kind of politely forced out. So I don't know if the relationship is as kumbaya as everybody paints it out, but he does supposedly still hold a role with the team.
Yep. And to the extent of what his word means, it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, he's pretty much hands off, just an advisor now, getting on up there in age. And Six said the Canadian Football League was founded January 19th, 1958. So it is 66 years old?
Yep, just about.
So I thought it was older than that. That's why I said 75 or 80. And so we were both kind of caught off with that one. But thank you for that one there, Sick Diggy, a.k.a. Tony Reale of this show. And again, guys, subscribe now and never miss out on new content if you are just now tuning in. And with all that thrown out there, we're going to go ahead and take this into round 4 and talk about the By the Numbers segment for this episode 113. Come on, technical difficulties. Take us to round 4.
Round 4.
Here with round 4. By the numbers, Kurt Warner is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 13 in all of sports history. I know the graphic looks cool, but you may disagree. With that being said, what do you think there, Dustin? Do you agree with the topic at hand? Do you think Kurt Warner is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 13 in all of sports history?
No disrespect to Kurt, but I'm out. There is one number 13 within his sport that played in some of the same era, but pretty much a different era altogether, just before Kurt Warner really went on the run with those Rams and everything. And I'm going with Dan Marino. Dan Marino is the greatest QB that I remember wearing 13. He threw for 61,361 yards passing, 420 touchdowns, and he was the first player to pass for 5,000 yards in a season. And you have to put that in perspective in the era that he played in. It was not the pass-happy era that we are in now, and he still had records that took years to break. Offensively, he had 13 seasons with 3,000 passing yards, and he was selected to 9 Pro Bowls. He did, if memory serves, go to a Super Bowl in his first or second year, but he did not win it. That while Kurt Warner may be one of the greatest Cinderella stories in all sports, to go from bagging groceries and the Arena Football League to winning a Super Bowl in the NFL and playing very well in his own right, Kurt Warner was not a flash in the pan. I got to give the nod to Dan Marino as the greatest quarterback that I can remember to wear 13.
Definitely a hard one to argue right there. And Ryan, what do you think? You gonna agree with him here and go Dan Marino? Or do you have somebody else in mind?
I'm going to go very surprisingly contrarian here and say that I'm in. Now, I'm not saying in because he had spectacular numbers. His NFL numbers, just his passing yards are about half of what Dan Marino had. 32,344 yards, 208 touchdowns, 128 interceptions, and 124 games played in the NFL. But the dude went from literally stocking groceries at the Hy-Vee to make ends meet in Iowa after a long career, after a career at Northern Iowa University. Shout out Panthers. To playing in not one, but 2 Arena Bowls. Then going on to NFL Europe. That's what played 1 season with the Anaheim Admirals. Yeah, the Anaheim not the Anaheim Admirals, the Amsterdam Admirals, pardon me, and led them to a 7-3 record. Missed out on a World Bowl appearance. Goes to the NFL. Fun fact, Kurt Warner actually didn't start with number 13. He started with number 10. And the only reason why he switched to number 13 was when the then Washington Redskins traded one Trent Green to the St. Louis Rams because they figured he was the best fit for Mike Martz's offense. Well, Trent Green blows out his ACL. The rest is history. Record-setting season for Kurt Warner. In his first full season as an NFL quarterback, 41 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, takes the Rams to the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl MVP, and would also go on to go to 2 more Super Bowls. That's 2 more Super Bowls than what Dan Marino ever had. Now, another amazing mark is the fact that he did the impossible and took the Arizona Cardinals to their one and only Super Bowl appearance in 2008. That's miracle work, my friends. That is total miracle work. Now, the next year they went 10-5 or 10-6, excuse me, and they went up making the playoffs. And they were excommunicated out by the New Orleans Saints, led by Greg Williams' headhunting defense and Drew Brees Drew Brees at quarterback. But look, I mean, it's not so much the stats. It's the story itself. The story, the man behind the character, the man behind the number 13, Kurt Warner. Super Bowl champion, 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, Hall of Famer. Yeah, he's number 1 in my heart as number 13.
Both of you bring up some really great points, but it's time I disagree with both of you. And I'm going to go out. There's more sports than the game of football.
Of course.
There's basketball we have to think about here.
Oh.
And somebody who was legendary to wear this number back in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s for 3 different decades. We have to look at Wilt Chamberlain. 2-time NBA champion in 67 and in 72, doing it with 2 different teams, the Philadelphia 76ers and the LA Lakers. He is also a 4-time NBA Most Valuable Player. He's also the NBA Finals MVP in 1972. And then after that championship, he retired the following year. But to do that in the latter part of your career, during a time when the game was very, very physical. Okay, we talk about how the game was more physical back when Jordan played in comparison to LeBron. But even back then, I mean, what was a foul back then? I mean, things were rough back in the day back then, and he still got 2 championships. Had it not been for the Celtics and Bill Russell and that team right there, this man would have had more than 2 championships right here. I mean, let's just put that there. You know, Dan Marino was great, got to a Super Bowl, should have won that Super Bowl, should have won other ones. He was the one that inspired Peyton Manning to become with what he became, and Peyton Manning inspired Tom Brady. So if it wasn't for Dan Marino, there would have been a Peyton Manning because of his father, but maybe not to the extent. And there sure as hell wouldn't have been a Tom Brady to the extent, because he's even said that even though they were rivals out there in the field, they helped each other off the field. And Tom Brady wouldn't have become the quarterback that he became without someone like Peyton Manning having his back. So thinking about how they elevated each other out there, Wilt Chamberlain elevated the Julius Irvings, who elevated the Michael Jordans, who elevated the LeBron James of today. So he was part of an era that elevated another one and was big for the game of basketball. So Dan Marino was big for the game of football, which elevated quarterback play for many generations. So I agree with what Dustin's saying for disagreeing with Kurt Warner for this one. Ryan got a little too emotional with this pick when it came to Kurt Warner on this one, even though he did throw out some good points there with the Arena Football League, bagging groceries, his story. I mean, you watch, I forget what the name of that movie is, but the movie about Kurt Warner or whatever. Did you guys cover it yet?
No, but we will eventually on No Credentials Required.
Now you need to, now that we've talked about it, okay? But that was a great movie. I've seen it, just can't think of the name of it was. But anyway.
American Underdog.
There it is. Yes. And I should remember it because I rented it. Like, yeah, I paid for it. I still watched it. I should remember it. Anyway, yes. American Underdog, great movie. So I see why you went there. Got a little too emotional about it. Dan Marino, though, another great choice. Me, I have to go basketball, and I have to go to an era which it was much harder to get the championships you got because of teams like the Celtics and the Knicks and others knocking on your door. I have to give it to Wilt Chamberlain, also a Hall of Famer here, 13-time NBA All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP in 1960, 7-time All-NBA First Team, 3-time All-NBA Second Team, 2-time All-NBA Defensive First Team. He was a Rookie of the Year in 1960 when he first started, and also a 7-time NBA Scoring Champion. Let's not leave out the 11 times he was the NBA Rebounding Champion. Part of the NBA Anniversary Team, the accolades go on, but the one thing that's the most impressive that I have to throw out there to put the icing on the cake of all this is before he even started playing real professional basketball, the man played for the Harlem Globetrotters for a year, a team that you just see shenanigans on a basketball court, okay? He went from being a laughingstock on the Harlem Globetrotters to playing real, meaningful basketball and being the greatest to ever wear 13 for the NBA and ABA, respectively, when you think about the fact that he spent his time in the NBA, but he was considered the best between both leagues. His number was retired for the Harlem Globetrotters, the Golden State Warriors, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the LA Lakers. When you put all that in comparison to having your number retired by 4 professional teams, even one of them's a joke, being the Globetrotters, and what you meant to that era in basketball, I couldn't forget the man known as Wilt Chamberlain.
All right, that's a great argument. I got to cede 13 to the host of the show, but since you went basketball, I have to ask you, Drew, where does Steve Nash make it ahead of Kurt Warner? Another 13, who I will acknowledge, I have a soft spot for Steve Nash. I always have. I loved watching him and Dirk Nowitzki play together, and he's third all-time in assists. Is that enough to put him ahead of Kurt Warner on the 13 list for you?
It's tough because Ryan makes a really good point with this story. Had Steve Nash gotten a championship, considering that he played with the Mavs and the Suns, other teams that, he had opportunities, right? It wasn't like he was a part of scrub teams and was the best player every single year on scrub teams. I don't know if I can give it to him on that. Even though you put Kurt Warner on the greatest show on turf in his first year, he still had other great years after that, and he solidified my stance on that by doing with what he did with the Cardinals later in his career.
Yeah.
So
Giants Kurt Warner is not something people want to remember.
He went 5-4. Okay, he went 5-4.
But even look at how miserable he looks in this picture. I made sure I put it in there. That one picture of him in the Giants uniform, he just looks miserable. Look at his face.
Well, he's playing New Jersey. You'd be miserable too.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the right side where he's at his glory days. He's got the Super Bowl. He went to 2 Super Bowls, winning the first one. And then he led the Cardinals to a Super Bowl. So because he went to 3, I mean, your argument was Dan Marino, which was a great one, but Kurt Warner still went to 2 more Super Bowls than him, and he got one of those. He got the first one, which Dan Marino couldn't do that. And, yeah, he could argue it that he had Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and Marshall Faulk all wrapped up into, receiving and rushing, which definitely helps your game out tremendously. And you had Ricky Prohl, who wasn't a scrub either for that time. So he had help. Marino had help too, but he was also just wasn't quite ready yet to ascend. And as he got ready to ascend, as he got older, the rest of the team was descending because he didn't have the same talent that he had when he first started, like Mark Clayton in the early 80s and so on and so forth. So, yes, I could talk about that all day long, but Steve Nash is a really tough question because had he won an NBA championship, I think I would have to consider it. But considering the fact that Warner still went to 3 championships overall, and even though he only got 1, it speaks more volumes in a harder sport in football, even though in basketball, you got to play offense and defense at the same time.
Yeah, I gotta say this. You can take one thing from Steve. You can't take one thing away from Steve Nash. Is he's arguably the greatest Canadian athlete to wear the number 13. So you got that. I wrestled with this question for a bit because there are some pretty spectacular number 13 athletes who wore number 13 out there. Matt Sundin from the Toronto Maple Leafs, Pavel Datsyuk from the Detroit Red Wings, Billy Wagner, 8th all time in saves. A-Rod.
I'm not putting A-Rod on.
Roberto Clemente.
Yeah.
Roberto Clemente's one. Had he not died too soon, we could have been talking about him being the greatest still after all these years later.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But definitely, you guys bring up some really great points. But Steve Nash, I'd say the best Canadian to ever wear, 13. I will never, ever consider PG-13 or what's his name, James Harden, as the best to wear 13. Alex Rodriguez cheated, and Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't been consistent enough. Has had some flash in the pans. I don't think I could ever consider him the best to wear 13. But between what you guys said and with what I said, I feel like all 3 of us bring compelling arguments to where anybody could side with anybody that we pick.
Now, I will say if Odell Beckham Jr. signed with the Jets this year, I would have said yes to the drama question. But
that would have definitely been funny to see with that. And we do have one comment, it looks like from Sick, that we had in between the last topic and here. Says, one of these days, Ryan McCarthy and Dustin, I would love to make another appearance on No Credentials Required. We got to work that out. Shout out to Sick.
We'll have a production meeting on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll figure something out.
He had great content the first time he was on, talking about you can go back and watch it in the archives or listen to it in the archives, but he had some pretty insightful thoughts about particular European soccer players. So, yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have to talk about having him on back again.
That's definitely an interesting topic. It's not one that's really covered a lot by our brothers in broadcasting. I mean, soccer is football is definitely a fun sport to watch and play if you are in shape, but it's not really talked about as much on here. So we'll have to find another question or two out here for next time to talk about a little bit of football at that point. But guys, thank you so much for the comments, especially you there, Sick. Keep them coming. We still have one more round to get to, but before that, we have one last commercial break. When we come back, we got the final round, the Vault of Fame inductions, and the final word. We'll see you guys after this last commercial break.
Everything Boston. I love you morons.
New Kids on the Block, New Edition, Dear, whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the Evening,
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
exclusively on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slur. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central, on the Sartoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, commanders.
Welcome back to the Inner Out Sports Debate, episode 113. We are back from the final commercial break, and Sick Nicky even dropped a comment that I will let you read there, Ryan, because I will butcher that name.
You're talking about my breakdown about Ashraf Hakimi and his divorce. He's a Spanish-born Moroccan defender. Yes, that was the guy I was thinking of. That's a crazy story too.
Yes,
It was.
I mean, his name, I just couldn't get it off the tip of my tongue during the commercial break. I was like, I'm going to butcher this. Brian needs to handle this one. I'm going to let him handle it because you guys were the ones that were talking to him about it out here in these streams. With that being said, we are back for episode 113 of the Inner Out Sports Debate. The guy with hair is gone again. I should donate it to Ryan, but he does not want it, as he is rocking that head just fine the way it is. And Dustin is here as well. Again, here for the Sartoba Media Arena. Here now for 113 as we got the final round. Let's go ahead and see what we got in store for that one.
Final round.
It's time to talk about Kang. Bronny James will exceed expectations and will eventually become a superstar in the NBA. From Yo Kang to Yo Prince. How do you feel about this one right here? Ryan, we'll start with you. Do you agree with this statement at hand? Are you in or are you out on this one?
To be fair, I would have used your hair extensions for your hair as beard extension. On this, I'm out. Once again, it's time for me for the second time this stream to say I hate this timeline because oh my god, I hate this timeline. Look, you're talking about a kid. I'm not gonna look. I don't want to go after the family, especially the son of somebody of an NBA basketball player. But look at this. It's 1 year out of college, barely polished, averaging 6 points per game. And like the only reason why you got drafted to teams because your dad's basically the GM and the coach. I hate to say it, but if he's going to be a star, it's going to be in the G League, Europe, or the TBL. And I feel like to him, and maybe I'm wrong. Again, please prove I'm wrong. It just seems like playing basketball is a luxury. You get to play with your dad, but what happens when, not if, but when Yo Kang retires? Is LeBron going to be there to defend his son for making a bad play? Is he going to be there? Is he going to keep him accountable? Because that's what this first year is all about, is keeping Bronny accountable and making him into a pro. Now, whether he's a star in this league, that's to be determined. It just seems like anybody in this league can be a star. There's a guy named Tobias Harris. I was today years old when I found out there's a guy named Tobias Harris who plays basketball, and he got a 2-year, $50+ million contract with Detroit. But getting back on topic, I'm absolutely out. And it's the nepotism in the NBA is ridiculous. And this kid's got more talent than I do. He's got more talent in his pinky finger than I do in my entire body playing basketball. But it just smacks of just nepotism and of just saying to the Lakers, if you don't make this move, I'm going where my son's going.
You agree with him, Dustin? You're going to go out on this as well?
I have to. For the sake of the show, I almost said I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, I'm going, how can I be in? But I am out. And I'm out for some of the reasons that Ryan laid out. Bronny's average points per game in college, not that impressive. More impressive than anything I could do on the basketball court, to be sure. But, I do think now Bronny's young enough that I do think he has room to grow. Do I see a future where he could possibly learn the game? Because he's going to learn from LeBron. Love or hate LeBron, he knows the game of basketball, and he's going to impart some of that knowledge onto his son. And I don't begrudge LeBron James for wanting to play with his son. I think this is a cool opportunity. Most dads would want to if they had the opportunity. I truly believe that. But this is about Bronny. Bronny does not have the body type that LeBron James does either. Bronny's about 6'2"? I remember I was in college when just before LeBron was going to go into the NBA. And I remember when ESPN started broadcasting LeBron's high school games, LeBron was a man among boys out there. He was a full-grown man at 18 years old. LeBron's 6'7"? He already had the body type of a full-grown man. Bronny does not have that. Bronny will have to bulk up. He will get pushed around in the NBA. But I do see a future where Bronny could potentially develop into a serviceable player and average maybe 12 points a game. But do I think he will be a superstar in the league? Absolutely not.
Guys bring some really great points here, and it really makes it tough when I have to say the next 5 words. For the sake of debate, the final round. I'm going to go in. I bet you didn't see that coming. Nobody saw that coming, and for that,
you guys want to hear a fucking story?
Right here, right now. It's coming. That story is showing up, even though some of you are probably going to be midway through saying this.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
I'm trying right now. The point is, you're coming from the case of Yo K and Yo Prince is here. Okay. Now, I brought this graphic up here at the beginning of the segment, also while Dustin was talking about it towards the end, but let's bring it up right here. Let's look at him. Yes, in comparison to Yo King, he is a midget in comparison to him when you look at what his size was when he was the man amongst boys back in 2003 when he first came out at the age of 19 years old, because he was a year later coming out of high school. So, yes, he did have a little bit more development coming out on him because, looking at Yo King, he was way more developed. And yes, Sick Nicky, I see your comment about the number 0. And he is a fan of Russell Westbrook. That's why he has a 0. He just better not play like LA Lakers style. Russell Westbrook is all I'm going to say. But right here, right now, I'm going in because he is the spawn of Yo King and also gets to play side by side with Pops. There's also a joke that came out recently that you guys even talked about on your show last week about the fact that Yo King is sleeping with his teammate's mother, okay? It's happening, okay? It is happening. And is that going to help spark the flame within inside of young Bronny of not only do I need to become a better player, but I should probably move out of my parents' house because I cannot be going to practice or to these games and be living with Pops too. Yes, you need to be exposed to the hyperbolic chamber. Yes, you need to be exposed to how he works day in and day out to become the player that he has been. But you do have some setbacks in your way. And for this, I'll cool off for a second as I can empathize with this from someone who has had issues with health, not to the extent of yours because you had a full-blown heart attack. And that's a little bit more significant than the one that I had with being a stroke not that long ago, okay? The difference between the two is that you have also way better health care and can afford it and probably had different options that sped you back up onto the court a little bit faster. It all works out to the way it's meant to, okay, especially for you. And I don't think you're going to be I don't think you're going to be a part of something like that again, even though it is a genetic defect in your case that could, but they're going to be keeping a closer eye on you now. And with you having the best of care, being there in LA and playing for that franchise, yes, there was nepotism that got him in there. But you guys, speaking of nepotism, let's go about this. And this is one thing they have been making a big point on the major networks and something that I have no problem talking about. When we look at cultures, right? People had said there was nepotism within our culture for many, many, many decades, okay? And now there's an opportunity where LeBron James gets the opportunity to flex his power within the game of basketball. Is it for the right reasons? Some will argue whether it is or it isn't because there's one person out there who they think got screwed out of not being drafted, even though in the round 2, especially in the later rounds, those picks usually don't work out anyway. I mean, there's only been 3 picks they were breaking down the other day that really moved on to do something valuable within that round 255 pick in all the years they have been picking at that slot, okay? Bronny James being the most notable of them all because he is the son of Yo King, okay? Right here, right now, there are people out there that are going to still say that he is the GOAT. Yeah, there's people out there that are going to probably say that because he got to play with Yo Prince, that this is going to make everything solidify him as the GOAT. No, being able to play with your son does not mean that you are the GOAT. Going to 10 NBA finals, only winning 4, still doesn't make you the GOAT either. You're only winning 40% of the time you go to the NBA finals. It's not a great stat line to me. But your son has the opportunity to become a superstar. Will he be as great as Yo King? No, he will not. Okay, that's not what this statement's all about. He will exceed expectations and eventually become Yo King. It does not say. It says become a superstar. And role players can be superstars too. They can be superstars in short minutes of the game. They can make impacts. And eventually, especially when they are early in their career, they can gradually move up the ladder from that point. I could see Bronny being somewhat like a Drew Holiday maybe one day. It might take him 5 or 6 years to get to that point, or hopefully a little bit less. But if LeBron flexes his power in 2 years and gets his son Bryce on the team, and him Bronny and Bryce are all playing together, and LeBron gets to do that for an extra year or two and play till he's like, 43, 44, and potentially maybe try to do something outlandish like Tom Brady did, which would be harder because of the fact that basketball is tougher, that you get to play offense and defense in the same game consistently. If Bronny has that much exposure to his dad as a player, and especially is able to dig deeper into the mind and be, what a point guard is the smartest person on the floor directing the traffic on the floor. I could see him being a superstar that's well enough to basically be the puppeteer while all the superstars around him do the big things to get all the big points and everything, and he just has like 24 assists and 8 points in a game. That's still, to me, great enough to be a superstar because you're still finding the open man. You're still a vital piece. And are you going to be a NBA Hall of Famer? And arguably to the snowflakes out there who say that Yo King is the greatest? No. You will always be Yo Prince. You will always say James Jr. on the back of your shirt. And I take back what I said a year ago when I said, before you had your health issues, I said you sucked, okay? People who suck do not make it to the NBA. And Bronny James proved in the offseason, in between his time with USC and the NBA Combine, that there was a lot of improvement. And even with projected picks, he was projected 54th. Went one slot lower than that because of the whole, if you draft Bronny, he's going to go play in Australia. Yes, that's what happened by his agent. But all for good measure, because if you want to develop somebody who's only had a year in college and needs more development, obviously, whether it's his size or on his game, the best in the world is your dad. In this moment, in this today's game, not the best in the world in all of history in NBA, but I will acknowledge that for today's game, for a 39-year-old to do what he is doing in today's era of basketball and for the last 20 years, I take my hat off and say LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of the last 20 years. Okay. Even with Kobe in the era, because Kobe won the 3 championships before that. So we're not talking about that era with Shaq mixed in with this. This is the past 20 years we're talking. In the past 20 years since his rookie year and since he's been an NBA All-Star every year and gone to, 10 total championships, winning 4 of them. Doesn't make him the greatest to ever play, but that makes him the greatest to play in the past 20 years, considering the impact he's had on other players and elevating other talent. He's going to have the opportunity to elevate his son. And because he'll have the opportunity to elevate his son, Yo Prince will become a superstar, not to the level of Yo King, but Yo Prince will be a superstar for the sake of debate.
The reason why you heard me chuckling in the background during your monologue, Drew, was because I thought to myself, what if Bronny would say to his dad, "Hey, Dad, can I borrow the Bentley to go to practice?" But in all seriousness, I hope for your sake, yes, that he does develop into somebody who could have superstar moments, could have that kind of superstar talent. But sometimes that talent doesn't necessarily get passed down to the next generation. I mean, look, we talk about Joe Montana. He had kids who were in sports. Wayne Gretzky, his sons played. I believe one of his sons played football in California. He didn't follow the family footsteps and go into hockey. The only other players I can really think of who got to play with their sons were Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And Gordie Howe came out of retirement to play for the Houston Aeros and it's AEROS of the WHA when his sons Marty and Mark started their careers. And he actually went on to play another 7 years, especially after the Hartford Whalers merged into the NHL. He was back in the NHL at 52 years old. So it can happen. Great. I hope for his sake he becomes has superstar moments, but let's see how they can develop him. The only reason why I said no is because we don't know what he is right now. We know that he averaged 6 points at USC. Now, and also, I also want to say this, Bronny, if you're out there listening, I know you're a big fan of No Credentials Required and for Out Sports Debate. But I hope you're still going to school, even though you turn pro. Because USC is not a cheap education. But I understand USC is a good school too. So he could probably take online courses along with being in his pro career, learn the game, but also learn to get himself a nice college education as well for the next stage. If God forbid this ever happens, if that heart condition does rear up its ugly head once again and he has to retire, he'll have something to fall back on.
Oh, he's got something to fall back on. His pop's got money.
But
all
besides
right?
that,
He'll never have to work if he doesn't want to.
Caveat, besides daddy's money.
I mean, LeBron's got that money from Space Jam too.
Yes, that. And, you know, I would think about it this way, I would say in time, if you're Bronny and it doesn't work out in the NBA, of course, do that, right? But right now, knowing that you have just a very, very, very small window to play with your dad, like at most, this is a high number. I don't see LeBron playing beyond 2028. Okay, like that's 4 years from now. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a high number, and the only way that I would see him potentially making it to 2028 is Bryce gets to the league and he wants to have a solid year, maybe 2 with Bryce. If he's still performing, if LeBron's still performing at the level that he considers he can do, similar to what Tom Brady was doing, because the year before Tom Brady retired, he had the best, arguably statistical year at the age of 44, which was why he, battled throughout that offseason for those 40 days to decide if he was going to come back. Okay. Now, LeBron, I'm pretty sure once he says he's done, he's done. But I definitely think he's got 2 good years left in him, right? This year with Bronny to help develop him. Next year, maybe with the pieces they get between this offseason and next, they can build a respectable team that by year 3, when Bryce comes into the league, if he's good enough and still is on his game to where we're considering that he could be a part of the league and they bring him in, you have year 3, potentially year 4. By then it's 2028. LeBron's 43 years old, and I feel like it's done at that point. 43, 44 years old at that point, hangs him up, okay? I don't see him making it to 45 like Tom Brady did in football because they're 2 totally different sports, and Tom Brady stood up there like the Statue of Liberty most of the time, very rarely ran around. Yeah. But for the sake of debate, for one, but also because of how rare a situation is, you brought up the Griffeys. Even if we ever saw 2 active players being a father and son on the same team again, I don't think so in the MLB. But if we did, I don't think we'll ever see back-to-back home runs like we saw from senior and then junior like we did before. That was definitely a monumental moment. The Howes, like you said with Gordie Howe and his sons, to have a father that played in 5 different decades, even though he did retire for 6 or 7 years in between that last run, to play in 5 different decades is remarkable in itself.
Yeah.
But for LeBron James to play, yes, in 3 different decades, in 3 different eras, and especially 2 different eras, because he was there towards the end of the physical era, because the 04 Pistons and how physical they were are, to me, in my opinion, the last real physical team in the NBA. Then they started changing the rules and things began to get a little soft and pacified. LeBron was there towards the end of the old era and helped usher in the Kobe, the real Kobe era. And then towards the end of that became the LeBron era. And here we're towards the tail end of that. If he can help make one, if not both of his sons better than what they were before they came into the league and actually make them NBA, journeymen, especially Bronny, and Bryce has always been touted to be better than Bronny, I think we could see something really special here. I still don't think LeBron's going to be the GOAT by the end of all of it, but I think he'll go down as the best number 2 in all of basketball. And what he did is nothing short of remarkable. I'm not going to take throw a big thing of shade on that, but what I will say is, having your son there and especially the potential to have both of them there is something that we'll never see again in the game of basketball, let alone baseball, I don't think. And Cole and I talked about it earlier today. I don't think we'll ever see it in the game of football because of how physical it is.
Yeah, football's window is too short. And I do agree with you. I think that LeBron is going to try. He's going to try to do everything he can to hang on, to play with his son as long as possible. I don't know if he holds out until Bryce gets into the league because Let me tell you, I mean, Dirk Nowitzki and LeBron are miles apart, but Dirk was 40, I believe, his last season, and you could see it. You could see it. He would do something on the offensive end of the floor, and he'd try to get back on defense, and you just see him like kind of hunched over, holding his knees. Dirk didn't have it that last year. He hung on to play with Luka because Luka wanted to play with Dirk. But yeah, I think LeBron is a different type of guy. He's got that. He doesn't quite have the maniacal drive that Kobe had, I think, but or that Jordan before Kobe had. But LeBron's got some serious drive in him. But whether he can hold out, because I can also see a future where he plays with Bronny this year, and if the Lakers kind of flame out, LeBron said he wants to restructure. He opted out of his contract, and he said he's willing to renegotiate and take a cut so that the Lakers can sign some talent to help him advance the roster. But Klay Thompson purportedly is signing with the Mavs on a 3-year deal. So, and LeBron reached out to him. They spurned him. They didn't get Paul George. I mean, who are the Lakers going to get? So I could see a future where he plays with Bronny, and then if the Lakers don't do well, he might decide, I got to do what I said I wanted to do. I got to play with my son. He could hang it up. I don't know. There's a bunch of different outcomes for LeBron, but I agree with you. A lot of people throw a lot of hate at LeBron. I'm not one of those people. What he's done is pretty remarkable, especially those runs with those early Cavs teams. People like to throw out that he got swept out by the Spurs. The Spurs were a fantastic team at that time, and LeBron really didn't have anything. Yeah. I said it to Ryan one time. I said, "You're going to tell me that Larry Hughes was a viable number 2 option on that team?" Yeah. So hats off to LeBron. The run he's had has been incredible. But I still smile every time I think about the Mavs unseating that vaunted Heat Big 3 in 2011.
I still kind of wanted the Mavs to win this year just because it would have been cool to say that Jason Kidd was part of the last team that won it as a player and then led them as a coach there too, especially with what he had going on in between with his run-ins here and there that got him ousted of other places like the Nets. But what do you think, Ryan? Because I went on a long-winded defense on that with Bronny. What are your thoughts? Because Dustin, had a great rebuttal. What are your thoughts when it comes to that?
No, I mean about viable points all around from the both of you. Like I said, it's a TBD at this point because you're getting a player who averaged only 6 points in college for the 1 year he played. So yeah, I hope he does well, and I'm hoping to eat my words when I said he'll be a superstar in the G League, Europe, or the TBL. I want, please prove me wrong. But right now I'm still, I got to pump the brakes a little bit. In response to what Dustin said about Dirk definitely didn't take care of himself as well as LeBron did throughout his career. Okay. No. You could definitely tell during the offseason he was throwing back a 6 or 12 pack at some point. The man had a little bit. I wouldn't put it past him. He's German. So
exactly. Of course. Yangling, everything, all sorts of great ales, all around the place. But LeBron, of course, likes his wine. But when he comes and shows up, whether he's whining or whining and dining, he still shows up in peak shape. Like the man has never showed up in all of the 21 years out of shape. I mean, tell me a time, I don't recall it, that we've ever been able to sit here and say that him being out of shape affected his game. It's more so has been mental decisions.
Yeah, LeBron's never out of shape. The only athlete I can think that kept himself in such peak physical condition up there with LeBron is probably Sebastian Janikowski. The picture of physical fitness.
He and Bartolo Colon.
If you're about a house,
let's see.
Do we not have audio?
Oh, now I got you.
We got
Now
you.
I got
you got
you.
me now?
We got you now.
All right. I was going to say, if the audio might have cut us out, but if you were going to sit here and talk about Sebastian Janikowski, you got to talk about Jared Lorenzen too. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
Yep.
Rest in
course.
peace. Rest in peace.
Then you think about him towards the end of his career when he was playing arena ball and the big green blob, like 350 pounds running around. He was still mobile as a big guy slinging the rock.
Yeah.
But
he
when
could still throw it.
He could. And Sebastian Janikowski could still kick it, but they had one thing in common. They love drive-throughs and 12 packs.
Yeah.
It was definitely evident. But no, LeBron's taking a great job of taking care of himself. And with that being said, let's talk about the comments that we have here in the chat. The Sick Diggy said it's rather fitting that he's wearing the number 0, as well as I'm out. Bronny is too young and unpolished. More importantly, that is about LeBron and his legacy. It's all about LeBron.
Fair point.
Yeah.
The nepotism comments continue to reign in. There it is. This is to the bronzesexuals out there. No, I was not trying to be a bronzesexual with my take. Let's take a debate for one, but also in case we're surprised, at least somebody was right when it came to that, but I'll probably be wrong. Bronny James' new nickname should be the Bricklayer if he plays like Russell Westbrook. I played the damn clip too early.
Cold.
In order to elevate himself, Bronny will have to get out of LeBron's shadow.
Let me talk to you.
Facts. That's all I got to say. I know it sounded like I was going to come up with some long-winded answer, but no, facts. I mean, he's going to get out of his shadow at some point, but he also needs to be within his shadow to learn how to be an NBA professional, I think, at the same time. So,
yeah.
Kind of a double-edged sword.
He's got to sit under the learning tree.
Chris Jericho.
Like Chris Jericho.
House and espresso McCoffee.
Well, like, you could name Bronny the golden apple instead of the rotten apple. What's up, Nicola?
Good. You definitely could. Right here, Sick Diggy says, the In or Out Sport Debate is brought to you by Slackjaw VPN. The VPN for slacking off on the sneak. Slackjaw VPN, where the slacking is smooth, he says. And peanut butter and jealous, brand new almond butter and cranberry.
Ooh.
A whole new nutty and a whole new berry.
That caused some inflammation there, Sick.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a combination there, Sick. I think I'm going to have to do this.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
The first one was good. This second one that you just dropped dimes on.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
You have a small window left in this show to reel it back in, Sick, and drop one more dime before we get out of here. So do it. Do it now. You can do it. As he says, good evening to Victor Locke, and how are you doing? We're going to do better when you drop one more dime before the show ends. And with that being said, we got to take this into the Vault of Fame inductions for these two gentlemen right here. Let's take it to that right there.
Acknowledge me.
That's right. The Internet Sports Debate Vault of Fame inducts Dustin Henry, now locked in the vault with episode 113 for the first time, as well as Ryan McCarthy, now a two-time Vault of Fame inductee with episode 113, takes our stat line to this, as Ryan jumps up to tied with 10 other people to now make 11 people who've been on the show at least twice. And Dustin now makes it to where there's 16 people that have been on the show at least once, but you can go back and check all these episodes out between Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, now X, YouTube primarily, and as always at Sirtoba.com, where the struggle is real to be awesome, as it says right here.
Sirtoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
With that being said, we are here for episode 113 of the In or Out Sports Debate. As both of those gentlemen have now been inducted into the Vault of Fame, we've only got one more thing left to do before we get on out of here, and that's take it to the final word. Out of everything we've talked about here, where the struggle is real to be awesome, for episode 113 of the In or Out Sports Debate, what are you guys thinking when it comes to the final word? We'll start this off there with you there, Ryan. What do you think when it comes to the final word?
All right, I'll put my final word. Tonight, the best, most outstanding, the most valuable player race right now, it's not here in the States. It's up to our friends up north in the Canadian Football League. And that race is between one Vernon Adams Jr. of the BC Lions, quarterback, and the other is Cody Fajardo, the Montreal Alouettes, who are both having outstanding years. And if you want to catch some really good quarterback play, watch the CFL. Watch any BC Lions game. Watch any Montreal Alouettes game right now. You're going to get some fine quarterback play. Watch those two quarterbacks. They are masters at their craft right now. And I would not be surprised if the BC Lions and Montreal Alouettes wind up playing in the Grey Cup in Vancouver in November. But it's a long season. It's a long way to go. So buckle up, get yourself some poutine and a double-double. Shout out to the Two and Out CFL podcast for that one. And watch yourself some Canadian football because there's some fun stuff going on up there.
Very well said. Thank you as always for that there, sir. And with that being said, Dustin, what are your final thoughts when it comes to the final word here?
My final thought is one, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed being on the show, and I hope we can do it again sometime. But I'm going to be a little selfish, and I'm going to relate it to one of the topics loosely, and I'm going to beg the New York Yankees to get a Juan Soto extension done. Please, Brian Cashman, I know you're watching the show. I know you're a big fan of everybody out in these streams.
Ew.
Please extend Juan Soto. Don't get distracted by the Vlad Jr. temptation. He's not going to want to play for you. Go extend Juan Soto. And that's all I have to say. I hope everybody enjoyed the show as much as I did.
Absolutely. And thank you again for joining us. And both of you, man, both of y'all crushed it and absolutely had a great time. We would definitely, before the year is up, make it happen again. But right here with the final word, you got to look at so many different things. I know those of you who've been watching this for a while are probably still baffled that I gave my take that I did in the final round, okay? Just remember the words for the sake of debate, all right, people? That's one. That's one right there. For two, it's all in the fun of the show. It's all in the entertainment for you. So please, if you're just now tuning in, whether it's the replay or while it's live right now in this moment here at a little after 11 o'clock Eastern time on July 1st, Bobby Bonilla Day, as we've said multiple times, and as you have been definitely reminded of throughout the day. Just want to give a shout out to all of you who've been tuning in. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to content, whether you're watching this on the Sertoba Media platform or if you're watching it on the No Credentials Required YouTube channel as well. And again, next week we got episode 114. We're going to keep trying to bring this thing rocking and rolling through the rest of the summer. I'm having just as much fun as the guests who keep coming on here each and every week. And if it wasn't for them and the people out here in the chat, even the people who give the comments after we are post-production while it's in replay, it's all from what you guys are bringing to the table that are helping me keep this fire lit each and every week. So when it comes to football, when it comes to baseball, Yankees, I'm sorry. I'm a Braves fan. I do not want you to re-sign. I do not want you to extend Juan Soto's contract. I want you to let him go. Let the Braves pick him up.
That would be absurd.
He's not going there. But, I mean, we are owed a mulligan for Freddie Freeman, all right? We are still owed a mulligan for that. So if you want to help us out, give us somebody like, hook us up with who we talked about earlier. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That could be a nice addition. And Juan Soto. Now I'm getting greedy. But when it comes back to baseball, it's definitely a fun time of the year. Now that NBA is over and we got a little bit of WNBA and some Olympic action, there's really not much on besides baseball and the CFL. So for those of you out there who are still sticking with me every Monday between Total Football Talk and this, thank you very much, because this is the season of vacations where people could be out there doing different stuff. And for you guys to take your time to be here during 4th of July week, thank you very much for that. And I greatly appreciate it. As we only have one more thing left to do before we get to that, though, and the ones, we have to acknowledge Sick Diggy's last 2 comments before we do that. He says, the Inter-House Sports Debate is brought to you by Sleazeball Meaty Subs, Ragin' Cajun Subs. Feel the burn, taste the spice, continue to enjoy the subs, and Country Fried Chimpkins, brand new, extra crispy, and lemon pepper. Oh, have mercy. It's that freaking good. If I don't drop a dime, then I'm definitely dropping a pair of nickels or 10 pennies in response to me while you guys were talking, saying a new one's sick, drop a dime, because he was repeating himself like he does in the previous weeks, and he did. He brought back the Country Fried Chimpkins.
Fried Chimpkin. Dude love apparently as the spokesperson.
Oh.
Oh, have mercy.
Say what again? Say what again?
That's how I feel whenever I'm talking about the Chimpkins. Somebody's like, say it again. Say it again. Or Chris Jericho's just like going to sneak around the corner of my house when I step outside and say this.
Would you please shut the hell up?
I hope this show to some people have not been a total
surprise, motherfucker.
As it's all for the name of fun. And we even got to bring Bruce in here before we get to the outro.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
You know that you
like that? You like that?
And if you're looking for a network with sports, comedy, and outright shenanigans, you
got the right one, baby.
Bring back Henry Rowan-Gardner for a second. What's up? Yes, the classics, my man. The classics.
Stop it. Get some help.
I'm trying. All right. I'm trying. That was fun. But yes, as we get ready to do one more thing, the ones are up, acknowledging Bobby Bonilla Day for the last time on July 1st, as we've only got one last thing to look at, and that's a semi-badass outro. For Dustin Henry, Ryan McCarthy, I am Drew Willingham. As always, please stay safe out here in these streets.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
You don't have to go home, but you got to get your cell phone up out of here. Y'all be safe out there this week for the 4th of July celebrations. And as always, again, stay safe out here in these streets.